Yeah, no worries.
And we're still good, I think.
Hmm.
Cool, nice. All right, we'll wait for Deshant to jump on, but in the meantime, yeah. Um, so we'll just get started. I threw this up on the screen just because it was what I was working on last night. Is at the moment the prefabs, which you may or may not have had a play with, are old. So all of the stuff is
Hmm.
I don't know when the original Noodle team made this, but a lot of the stuff is really really useful but old, and they haven't got maybe some of the more like pagination was a great. I've used that in several apps. It's really really handy. Um, but they're all completely out of date. So I think we can sort of take a break maybe from the core code based changes and focus on. I wanted to focus on prefabs, modules as well, which is like packages you can add from external libraries like Chart.js and Mapbox and cool stuff like that. And there's one app, for example, that uses Mapbox called Traveler, and Mats, who does it, is in the server lurking somewhere. But he did an insane level of detail app with Mapbox. It's got a lot of options under the hood. Anyway, something to look at to do to bring all the stuff up to date because it is really useful for getting started. And I think templates as well, really useful for getting started. But anyway, that'll be later. So I'll go through while we're waiting for this shunt to let me send him a message. Oh, he's gone. All right, fine.
And and everything from prefabs is backwards compatible, so it doesn't use the latest features, but none of it will break if we use it. Yeah.
In theory, not. Yeah, I mean, I did a test last night. I imported the date picker, which is here. Hang on.
Hmm.
I don't know if we'll throw it on the main page and see if it works. It might not. It's the first time I've kind of looked at this thing that is created for me. I'll put it in like, where are we? Info strip. Ah, yeah, okay, these are components. So we'll go
Oops.
strip.
Oh, that's interesting.
No, what am I doing? One of the least known, maybe, but most useful ever Noodle things. If you, so I was in the trust strip, which is this one, and I clicked the date picker thinking I was going to drag it in, but I just clicked it once, and so it takes you to that in the node canvas. So you're like, oh crap, I have to go back and get to that, like go through the home again and get
Mm.
that. But you have like a back forward button here. It takes you. It's like it's like a web browser. It takes you back and forward between whatever the most recent node graph you had visible was. So that's
It was funny because I looked at that date picker icon and my first instinct was to drag it, as
yeah,
opposed to click on it. Like the little page icon was what makes me think, oh, I can navigate here.
yeah. You can drag it. Oh, well, it dragged it, but then it opened it. That sucks. Let's try that again. All right, drag you sucker here. Oh yeah, it opens it when you drag it. That's a pain. All right, that's a bug. We're going. That's going to
Well,
be
because
bug
what
fixing
happens?
today. Oh sugar.
Hang on, date picker. Yeah, no, for some reason it doesn't do that on my end. I can just drag it in to the
Yeah.
graph. I
Have,
can even drag it in and like pin it underneath the page, and
okay.
it'll go straight to the bottom. The only problem is that like, does it appear as a drop? It doesn't appear automatically, right? It appears as like a drop down if you click on it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like like an input field. Hang on, I'll show you.
Hmm.
Oh, the dip picker is there. All right, so we'll delete that one. All right, so that here.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, it's not. Yeah. So there's a few things that are broken. I can see it's not responsive, so it's not going in.
Yeah.
It's
I if I click onto the calendar today, like that mangled text that overlays itself, it will open for me.
yeah,
Yeah, there it is.
yeah, yeah. But it's not
Yeah, so
perfect.
if I drop it into a blank canvas, nah,
Yeah.
that's
I think the backwards compatibility problem is probably that like the icon packs have been removed, so the icons have been replaced with lucid icons, whereas before I think it was
right.
maybe font awesome.
Ah, yeah.
So that would be the reason
Hmm.
why it's showing the calendar name, the icon name, and not the actual the thing itself.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's the what do you call it? It's the thing that like the browser replaces it with when the icon is not. It's a
yeah,
null
a
reference. Yeah.
fallback value or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, And yeah, Bogdan, you are invited. You're always invited. And you can also click request to speak if you want to join in and ask questions. So yeah, it is backwards compatible because nothing in the way that for example, script node works has been changed. So you still have the declaration of inputs and outputs has not changed there. So you still get the same date selected output that does the same thing. It has the same JavaScript inside it. The only thing that would change is probably that there's not. The script node is an exception because it's like pure JavaScript. You decide what to put in there. But like the function node, if you'd had a function node, then it would still have the same inputs and outputs, but it would also have the completed and the unchanged, which are the new outputs that are default to all nodes. So it's more just that the nodes would have extra stuff that they didn't have before, but I don't think we took away anything necessarily. But it's something we have to look at as we go forward. Oh, there's Deshant. Hey, Deshant.
Hey.
So you don't even have to request. You can just jump on the stage. That's pretty cool. And
Did you give me the permission for that?
did I? Yeah, it's true. I did do that. So yeah, we were just talking about maybe one of the next stages would be trying to update all the prefabs, taking them from purple, boxy, basic prototypes to something that actually looks good, or that even could maybe match the style of the app that you're building, since we have kind of like a style, centralized style concept now, rather than having to style everything by hand.
And isn't that does CSS do that? I mean, okay, so first off, I'm an end user. I don't know anything about programming. I don't know anything about web development. I know nothing, right? So does CSS like store a lot of those rules that like you can like all of the different things in your project can inherit from, like buttons, text, that sort of thing?
In theory, that is the case because we have at the project level, you should have somewhere. Wasn't that
A style sheet?
Yeah, I thought there was one somewhere. We were working on it at one point, but this was like pre-February. There's a lot of stuff pre-February that I just don't remember if we actually finished it or not. There was supposed to be a style sheet where if you looked at a text or something.
Yeah, I thought I came across it by accident, and I thought, oh, that's a neat little feature. I might use that one day.
Got sort of basic styles. They have variant. I mean, variants was something that existed with the old Noodle as well, which is you can style it in a certain way and name it as something, and then any text node can be given that name and given that variant, and it will style itself with the same font and the same color and whatever the options you've chosen here are. But I did think we did have a phase at one point that was about style. There, styles overhaul. So this just may not have been properly done. It's supposed to be a whole property panel. Yeah, you can see that the tasks haven't even been written in here. So it's got the scope of these different phases. This is how it works anyways. In the repo in GitHub, you have a tasks folder at the root of the project. And within there is all the different phases of high level concepts that we wanted to build. And then within there, it's broken up normally into smaller phases or just tasks. But you would have the scope of the project in the README or the roadmap or whatever it is, and then individual tasks like in something like this, where you would actually have like the individual task names and notes or results, whatever happened in the task progress. So it means that we haven't done this bit yet, but this would be probably what we would be talking about here, which is sensible defaults. And I think the idea was to create a panel somewhere that has a kind of global variance concept or styles concept. Yeah, style tokens, element config, style presets. Yeah, so to give you the option of styling it 100% by yourself, or just picking a default style or like a simple combination of style parameters that you could just add to all of the elements, and you don't have to actually do the style yourself. But to answer your question, yes, it is all CSS, and in the end, NodeGX Noodle actually has a CSS bit in the advanced HTML where you can define, for example, at the top level of your app, and Deshant will know more about this than me, so he might want to chime in. But at the app level, you can put a CSS component. Where are the CSS components? No. So we don't have a CSS component anymore. It's something to look into. Deshant, did you see the CSS? Am I going crazy?
It might have been removed. I think it might be removed because of the
Oh, there it is.
CSS style sheet.
It's here.
Yeah,
It just
this one.
didn't. Yeah, why did it not come up when I typed CSS? What the? Oh, there. Okay, it was just at the top and I didn't see it. My bad. I'm getting paranoid. So CSS definition.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
It immediately scrolls down to UI elements, and then you have to scroll up under logic to find it. So type in CSS.
Look at that. Yeah, that's annoying. Yeah, like it sort of jumped up, but it started there. That was dumb. All right, well, fix that. So Deshant is very good at this, putting CSS definitions at the top. So just entering regular old CSS, which I'm not going to attempt because I'm crap at it, but whatever, group style or group 1 or I don't know. And then you put your style in there. You can do whatever kind of CSS you want. And then as you go down through your app, if you add a group text, whatever, and you want to style it quickly, then you just put in the CSS class here. Just type in group 1 and it'll style it with that CSS definition from the top.
Ooh,
or individual CSS styles. You can also just have an inline style. So when the element is rendered, it just has inline CSS for that one specific element. But obviously that's a bit more for like specific things. That would be cool. But in general for your app, it's probably not a good idea. So yeah, the answer is CSS is there. And if we put styles at the top level, then it'll the things will inherit CSS, or we'll be able to see some, a style menu here would have a better picker in it that you could pick one of the global styles that you've developed that would automatically put the padding in and the color and the shading and the whatever. So anyway, I'm just going to present bits and pieces of what is changed, and then you guys just jump in if you want to ask any questions anywhere. It could also be a bit of a tutorial session. It's just whatever works. I'm happy with what I see from the AI created page, which is the one you see in front of you. So this is one I did yesterday with this part, Meet the Maker, came from the internal AI, and that one is... So if we want to... This is another thing that changed because I saw you struggling to... In design mode, you were clicking things and wondering why they weren't clicking. And it's just because there's design mode where you can actually target something, click it, and then it shows you that element in the canvas. So I've added these borders around the canvas to show that you're in design mode, to know that you have to click preview to be able to click something, then it'll click. But if you're in design mode, it doesn't click. Design mode selects the element. It's a bit like what you were saying, where you would have liked to be able to drag something that you see in the canvas or drop something on the canvas. It's kind of like the beginning of that concept.
Even so much as because it looks like a text box when that box appears over it, right?
Yeah.
And I sort of feel like, I can type the value into it immediately, and then I can preview what it looks like.
Exactly.
But that's not the case.
No,
that comes with the WordPress, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Deshant, it is a question of, it's one of the things I noticed when I don't actually know your name. I'm sorry. We've been talking for ages and I've never asked for your first name.
My name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Jordan. Jordan is fine.
Jordan, okay. So Jordan made that amazing video with all the feedback, and one of the things he mentioned was that you would expect, since so many other builders tools have that if I click on Marin Hollis, that I can actually type something and edit it, which I can't. So it is a fair question. In design mode, you would sort of expect that if I click that, at the minimum, it shows me that I can change the text, or if I click an image, maybe it shows me an image picker, or so it's the question of the usefulness of that, or would it create confusion, and should we just stick with the kind of strict Noodle method?
This?
Yes, please. You must.
Okay.
You're the front end guy. I don't know any of this stuff.
There's two types of editor. First is the visual editing. Well, that's the type of thing you will be very familiar if you're using the WordPress. So you click on the design, let's say a text, and you edit it right from there.
Yeah.
As is the case for the WordPress, but it's kind of like a, as is the name, note graph expression. So it's kind of like a note editing rather than the visual editing. If you try to go with the visual editing, it's going to be taking too much of the, I mean, it's kind of like a behavior that you are getting trained on. And if you try to click everything and try to and I mean, let's say if you do accept, try to click on the text and you edit the text right from the preview, the design mode, but if then you will be more kind of like expecting more. You will want to resize the images, resize everything right from the this visual note, and you will be backlining the notes.
Yeah.
And then that would kind of explode the scope of way too much on
Yep.
your end.
I think
I think possibly. Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead, Jordan.
I was going to say, I think maybe because when you click on the boxes in design mode, it produces that little I don't know what it's called, but it looks like that little typing icon. And so when my mouse does that, and then I'm able to select the text, then my brain automatically goes, well, I can select the text. Then the next thing I can do is press backspace to get rid of it and then change it. So that muscle memory is built into like the way that you interact with the text when it's in design mode. So if all of these things that are on the preview or on the design mode or the preview or whatever, like when I click on it, then all of them are just buttons that take me to somewhere in the graph. So it should never look like I can like type into it like a field box. You know what I mean?
100%. And I love that you said that, because I went through your video kind of frame by frame, and I love working with Claude Code, because these are the kind of things where I would say I don't know mentally how to kick somebody out of that model, because if you, like you say, if you see a text cursor, you're going to think that you can type text, but that's just what happens when you mouse over text. That's what it looks like. So Claude was like, all right, well, we'll make a crosshair, so everything you click in design mode is a crosshair. So that was just something I never would have thought of, but it's so simple that you see a crosshair in the blue, you would still think I'll click that and then edit it. I think it's what Deschamps was saying is, it's not that, so none of this is about the scope, because the scope, you can kind of, I don't want to say you can do anything, but you can kind of do anything with Claude. You have to be careful not to let it take over your life and miss out on doing important things, like important features, I mean. But it's not a question of, we can do that. You can pretty much do anything. But I think what Deschamps was saying, and it's something I've realized recently, is something I realized from the beginning of using Noodle and now NodeGX, is it's very opinionated. So
Yes.
it was made by developers. We were in contact with the team back in the days, and they're really good developers. I worked with them on projects where they would use, it reminds me, so I'm going off on tangents, but it reminds me of the only two no code tools I ever loved were Noodle and another one in France called Gorilla. Nobody knows about, because it was
I know about it.
you know about it. The concept of it was the basis of how I see Noodle today. It was an agency of developers. They had developed a system in the south of France to build Flutter apps. And so clients would contact them and ask for a mobile app prototype, and they would build it. But coding in Flutter meant that a lot of the lower end entrepreneurs or hobbyists would not be able to afford it, because it would be 10K, 20K, 50K minimum for an app. So they realized that they were losing a lot of potential customers, even though they didn't want to serve that part of the market because it was low budget, people with 1 to 5K. But they thought, well, if we invest a bit of time building a no code or low code tool that allows us to do what Flutterflow does. So it was a node graph like this, where you can build stuff like in Flutterflow, basically a clone of Flutterflow, but it had a lot more code injection possibilities, if that makes sense, so that they could build really custom apps for their clients who had less money. much, much faster using this no-code tool than them coding it by hand themselves. But it meant that their tool was very opinionated because they built it for themselves as coders to go faster, but still to be able to put code in. So it was very like, it wasn't built for like Bubble. It wasn't built like Bubble. I don't know if you've ever used Bubble, Jordan. I know that Deshant and I have.
I have not.
All right. Oh, that's a shame. Because Bubble's like kind of the genesis of this whole thing. I know we can talk about like other node graph builders that are out there, but Bubble was there. I started using Bubble in 2017. 2016. I remember building my first. I was doing language coaching in Paris, and I was building apps for people my clients to do like homework stuff. And Bubble, the promise of Bubble, I know it's just it's a bit of a history lesson, but I think this is important too, and we have time. And if you want me to shut up, you just tell me to shut up. But so for me, it teaches, if you let me go through this a little bit, I'll try to be brief. It teaches a bit about the history, but also about how these tools can actually be successful and how we can make NodeGX and the community grow again. Because the example of Bubble was a really, really proper case study that I think nobody's ever really done. But I have in my head because I was using it from the beginning. So they built it in 2014 to answer a problem that they had found in California, they were in New York, sorry, where you had these meetups between founders, tech startups with founders who had no technical skills, but who had a great idea, who'd seen that taxis in New York suck and we need a better system for taxis. So they go to these meetups where there's developers who are looking for more work and are prepared to take on potential equity in a company rather than being paid. So, if they join the next Facebook, potentially they could be millionaires. So it's the dream was there in 2014. And so that what the Bubble guys did, Josh and Emmanuel, who is actually a French guy, went to school in one of the business schools in Paris. They went to these meetups with this concept of, we've got a no-code tool. It was one of the first ever ones. Unless you consider WordPress, but this was the first ever no-code tool that can really do anything. They developed a whole visual language where you never, ever had to enter one line of code, not a single expression. Everything was handled with visual coding. And they would go to these founders and say, don't give away 25%, sometimes 50% of your company to a developer, and then the developer might leave. I've been involved in projects like that where the client came to me after a developer got 50% of their company and then held them hostage and said, okay, I've got the code, I've got all the keys, you have to give me a whole load of money or else I'm just going to stop the project, because they were getting tired of not getting paid. So they would go to these guys and say, don't take all those risks, use our tool, you only have to pay $30 a month, and then that's it, and you just launch your app and you're good to go, and you'll have your investment, prototype, whatever. And so that was the first one that I joined then in 2016. I was one of the first people to actually use it to make actual client-facing apps, like not just making apps for myself, but having other people say, whoa, that app you made was so cool, can you make me one? I'll pay you. So that concept that I was talking about with Gorilla started there, where people saw Bubble, thought, oh, anybody can do this. It was written in a language that a developer would hate. It was written in a language that a regular person, Jordan, you were describing yourself as a non-tech person, as an end user. That's exactly who Bubble built for. And they made their visual language, all the conditionals, all the crazy stuff that you can do in coding. They renamed all the concepts so that a regular person would understand it straight away. And so you got to a point where people like me got really good at it because I was using it every day. And newbies who came in would try to learn and get a bit stuck or get a bit bored and say, you know what, I've got $1,000, I've got $2,000. I'll just pay one of these dudes on the forum who are really good. I'll just pay them to do it for me. It'll be way faster. I don't have to learn anything. So suddenly you got what Bubble never expected, which was an ecosystem of freelancers and then agencies. And I actually built an agency for myself, a Bubble agency back in the days. working a bit with Deshant. That's how we first got to know each other in the Noodle space. But it was at the time that I was building client-facing apps as an agency. And this ecosystem then started where if you wanted, it's like WordPress as well, if you want to build an app, you have a whole community of people who can build it for you. You put a request for proposal up, you'll get 40 responses within the hour. It was really, really lively. There was a lot of money being traded, and Bubble had nothing to do with it. Bubble just put the platform together where you could do the request for proposal, but they had the people got scammed, spammed, whatever. That Bubble had no responsibility for it. They just they used Bubble to make a page where people could put the request for proposal, respond to it, and then they dealt with the money issues themselves completely off platform. So it was an example I used with the Noodle team back in the days to say, if you can make the tool easy to access, cheap, and let the community kind of develop its own ecosystem, its own community forums, its own systems for asking for jobs and advertising yourself as a freelancer, it just writes itself, because then it becomes really popular. You get loads of examples. You get agencies. If there's an agency with 50 people who's building on Bubble, it totally legitimizes the whole concept, because that company wouldn't exist if it was crap. So as much as people criticize it, they can't sweep away the fact that it's actually really successful, and it's still successful. I still know people who are building on it. It's crazy. Anyway, but it's obviously super opinionated, because it's built for people who don't know how to code. Something like Noodle, I fell in love with because it was opinionated in another way. It was people who know how to code but want to help people who don't know how to code break into it, either completely visually or with a little bit of code. And you get to that point in Noodle where you want to apply a discount to the prices that you have here. So you have your price flowing in, £22. Where is that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Price coming from here. So price is a string. That sucks. So let's try to fix that.
I wonder if you can apply that little data flow effect to the actual code when it runs.
Like in a function or in the logic builder?
No, because you noticed when you hovered over that field, right, and then you saw the logic.
Yeah.
You saw like the code like highlight over the top of it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like if that price is streaming out, like you can have like, would it be possible to have visual feedback, like maybe bold something, or I don't know.
So it's a good question. The concept here is that what you're seeing in this window over the field is the input that's coming in JSON format. So it just shows you each input key and what the current value is that's flowing through it. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like it would be good to see more animation here, but this will change. If I change something on the outside, you'll see the price change just by flicking to a different price. So it will change. It's just not really animated. But what I want to do is I want to take this price. I want to feed it. I want to get that pound symbol away. Let's say that it's a string for some strange reason, and I need to fix it before I put it through maths to give it a 10% discount, round it to a whole number, and then feed it into the price instead of this current price. Like I'm 10% off the whole website type thing. Just as an example of something to do, and to show you the kind of that opinionatedness of Noodle. So I'll show you two different ways. I'll show you the visual function, which is the new one. This is a completely new opinion of how to code. And I'll show you, I think, Deshant, if I do an expression node, will I be able to take away the pound symbol from the price and turn it into a number and do maths on it and then reapply the pound symbol? Or is that a function?
Manipulation,
No.
isn't it?
That pound symbol is a text, not a
Yeah.
number. So you would need a function.
Well, hold on. In theory, yeah, but then, because I guess an expression is not going to be strong enough. So an expression would be if I said price times, wrong keyboard. If I said price times 0.9, then that's going to give it a 10% discount. So the expression node just is the bit that would be in parentheses in a JavaScript function. It just evaluates something, an input or whatever you want, and then maths or strings or whatever. So if I put price in there, it's not going to work because it has, and it is true that you can't see it evaluating, which is something I'm thinking about at the moment, that when you open it up, you don't see why that's become null. You don't see an explanation for why it's null. Although,
you also, when you open up the expression node, you don't see what expressions are available to you either. So
that's true.
Can I see like a, yeah.
That's true. And that's something I tried to fix that a bit with the function node. So I'll try to bring that same logic into the expression node, where in the function node, it starts with at least an example value. And then you have, you don't have a menu to see everything, but if you were to do like Noodle dot, you would see all the different Noodle functions that exist. So that's a start of like that code helper. I can't remember what that's called, like an autocomplete system for code. So I'm definitely working on that. But then I'm in two minds about it, and I think I'm going to explain that with this example. That I love the expression and the function node because I actually like learning a little bit of JavaScript, just enough to do cool operations on the data. But
Keep talking. I'm going to mute for a little bit.
what? Sorry. Oh, okay, you're muting. Cool. But the problem here is that I have a price it's not explaining why that is. But then I'm wondering, I'm just going to do something. I have no idea if this will work. Oh, doesn't work. Well, that's embarrassing. Oh.
What?
Okay. 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 So that's something we can fix. I think that's pretty cool. That would be cool. So it knows about what you've done. It knows where it's wired, but it doesn't see the current value, which it can. I think it's just not wired into. So I explained before in one of the posts, there are two MCPs now in the editor. There's an MCP which is using here where it can read and write to nodes, so it can see how the node is configured. That's what's stored in the project JSON. And then there's a second MCP where it can actually view the current output and current logs of what's happening within the node canvas and within your preview. So I think it's just not wired into that. But if it was, which it should be pretty easy to do, then this part would say you've currently got a string coming in. It's evaluating as a number. It's not working because you can't multiply a string. So that would be this. When I made this part, actually, it was, I think, Claude who suggested making it, and I thought, this is really stupid. Nobody's going to use this. Why would you want it to explain a node? But actually, for this exact reason, for saying, and even for Jordan's question, to say, I don't see what I can do with this node. Can you help me? I want to do like a modulo function or something. Like I want to round it up to a whole number. How do I do that? And then that explain panel could maybe give you that specific node guidance. So it's the first time I've actually thought that actually is useful, what it did here. So that's cool. And I think that kind of thing should be simple enough to work with like a local model as well. If you had like Llama 3.3 or 3.2 running on the computer, that could probably work pretty well, but I haven't experimented with that yet. So Deshant, you think this, I can't do, for example, number. That's not going to work, you reckon? Number is not, okay. Oh, am I doing something stupid? I'm not a coder. I'm embarrassing myself. There's a thing where it's like math.number or something, and it creates a number out of a string. It would be price. Hang on. There's a thing like, what is it, like truncate or something? No, slice or something, and it slices off the first value. What's that?
First value of a string.
Yeah. What is it? Is it slice? No. All right, hold on a second.
is the str.slice in the brackets one.
Okay, so the text box doesn't actually let you. I couldn't do backspace in the text box. On the price and expressions. Ooh. Okay. So now I'm annoyed because this, like many of the Noodle NodeGX panels, you can't actually select the text. So that's dumb. Because if I'm asking a question, I'm obviously going to want to select that and bring it into the expression. And now I can't see it, so now I'm annoyed. That's silly, but I'm recording. All this will be bug fixed this week. Don't worry. But yeah, so its number was right, but it's price.replace. Oh no, that's the one. So you were right. It's slice 1, and then that slices at the first position, and everything else gets kept. So price slice 1. This is a great example of why people don't want the code, because it's just so annoying.
I think you should remove the brackets of the number.
This
Remove the
this
number
bit.
and the bracket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the price.
okay.
The price is the value.
Ah,
Let's say
okay.
you know those questions. Find the value of x, and x is here is the price.
Yeah.
And slice is the
Okay.
function.
Okay. Now this is something that Jordan flagged as well, and it seems like it's not being fixed. It's that when you have an error with an expression or a function node, and then you change it and fix the error still shows afterwards. So this I need to fix as well. But that's worked. What you said worked. So price slice 1 times, and it's just the expression has interpreted it as a number. And it's come out with 19.8. So that's perfect. And then rounding it, it's floor, I think. So if we do that, dot, that's probably not going to work at all, is it? I'm being really stupid here. Floor. Oh, okay. Yeah, it definitely didn't work. It's right though, right? Floor is like to the nearest round number. Or is it like, oh no, hang on. Is that it?
It was the math.flow.
Yeah, I think we should just do a bloody function, shouldn't we? Now, one of the things we're missing here is that it used to be that you could ask the AI to build you a function.
Function.
Yeah, and now we can't do that, I don't think. Can we? Can you build me a function node that will take a string price like turn it into a number, multiply by 0.9 and round to the nearest whole number. So this bit again totally changed. I have only tested it a couple of times, but the idea now is that there's no kind of per component or per project. You just have a conversation and it just knows what you want to do. You can add components to it to give it like a at mention context. Say I'm talking about this particular component. You can attach files to it. You can render an external or internal page to give that as a screenshot. So there's a lot of changes there to test. It's made a script node. Ooh, that seems a bit overkill and stupid because a script node wouldn't run by default, I don't think. So that's not a good idea. But what's cool is it's made a component. So it's not said, I'm going to make you a function node. It said, I'm going to build a component because I've told it components are the canon. Components are what we want. We have to make everything into a component. So let's say ask for changes. If it's a script node, it won't run by default. We need a function node that runs on value change. That's another thing that you'll notice that's changed is on the function nodes and expression nodes, you have the option to turn it on or off if it will run on a value change. Oh, nice. All right. Let's do add to project. Oh, and it makes a comment and everything. I love it. It's so good. I mean, this is using Sonnet. So it's cheating a little bit because it's a very expensive and high quality model. What did Shantis dropped off? Anyway, Jeez. Holy moly. It's done a real hardcore JavaScript function. And it runs on value change. So it runs on when price is changed, then it'll run. So that's cool. Don't know why says the port doesn't exist. That's funny. Because it's done. Okay, it's done. No, it's done inputs price, so the port should exist. Do I have to add it as a port? That would be weird. Never had to do that before. No, discounted price. And it's a number. Yeah, so Deshant, there's another bug here is that it's created a component, which is great, a whole component to do this really insane JavaScript function that I think is a bit overkill, but it says that the inputs and outputs don't exist, which is weird. Maybe if I reconnect them, would that work?
Show me the function.
Oh yeah, it's just for some reason it connected it up, but must have connected it in a way that wasn't accepted because I've just redone the connections manually and that worked.
Show me the function.
Oh yeah, you'll see it's nuts. Look, it's used a variable, like not even a constant. It's done parse float, which I guess is like a way of turning a string into a number. And then it does the math here, which is pretty simple. But like this seems overkill compared to what we were doing before. So it's really doing a Sonnet extreme JavaScript example. But maybe a coder would argue this is the best way to do it. I don't know. So
I just came back. Is that Claude in the editor working to write that code?
Yeah, so I just did this conversation where I said, can you build me a function to turn that string into a number multiplied by 0.9? It made a script node for some reason. And then it's and I said a script node's not the right one because a script node it's really hardcore. You need to have a specific signal input to make it run, or else it won't run. It doesn't just run by default, whereas a function will run by default whenever the price value changes. So you don't need to connect in run signal to run the function manually. It'll just run every time this value is supplied, and it's just different than what it was before. So
So what's really interesting to me is that my first, probably not my first foray, but like my first look into like audio synthesis through a node-based environment was like plug data, which was based off pure data, which is like a node-based data flow environment from the 90s. We had like two things. We had like continuous signals, which is just an audio signal that gets routed through nodes at the Nyquist frequency. So that's like 22,500 times per second. And then you had something called bangs, which work exactly like those signals that get sent. So in my head, I'm thinking, oh, okay. So functions don't need what was it? Was the function? What was the other one? The
script.
The statement. The script.
Yeah.
Scripts work are just pure data flow, and then a function is kind of like something that happens only when you trigger it with a bang. So it's like in my mind, I'm like, that's a control signal in an audio environment.
Yeah, I think that probably the analogy breaks down because it's just JavaScript. So essentially, the script node is pure JavaScript. So it's just there's a JavaScript script that's been imported into the page, and then it has connections with the outside world. But if I did the same thing with the script node, I don't have an option to just run it when the value changes, because the idea of the script node is that you do just for an example, the function node, when you say, and this is one problem I saw you having as well when you were in your video, if you say inputs.price, it declares that as one of the, if you made it a function, then discount, then it would have that as like the input price and then discounted price or whatever it is. I'm really crap at JavaScript, so I'm probably doing something wrong. But oh Jesus, what am I doing? Okay, so and then you would do your function in here. So the function node essentially does this bit for you and just lets you write this bit, which is this bit here. Right. So
okay.
Instead of you having to declare what the inputs and outputs are and name the function and write function, it just wraps. If you write something in the function node code editor, it'll wrap it in this. And then either it just runs this function, it just calls that function whenever you connect a run signal, or anytime the price comes in different as a value, it'll run that function. But you're only allowed to make one function. So you can't have, function 1, function 2, function 3. You can have functions within the function.
One function per node.
So essentially, it's one function per node, but in JavaScript you can have nested functions. So I could have a function node that contains 3 different functions, but they're all going to run at the same time. They're all going to run within that one function that I call from the function node. So if I write a whole bunch of functions here, anytime I call the node, they're all going to run. I don't have the choice to run one of them or 2 of them. I have to run all of them. Whereas with the script node, you declare signal inputs. So you would have like, run once and run twice. And can you select signal? Oh, you can't select signal. That sucks. All right, so forget what I just said. These are just value inputs that you have to declare the inputs in here. And if I remember right, it's script dot signal dot run once, for example. And then within that, you can apply that to a function and define it. And then when you'll have like multiple run signals declared, I don't know if it'll actually work. No, it didn't work. But normally then you would get multiple of those like lightning symbols with each one named after whatever the input you created was. And then you decide which one you want to run when. So you can have one script that contains 20 different functions. It'll have 20 different signals and maybe 40 different inputs or whatever, because you have a whole bunch of values you can put into it. I mean, you see the example, you can get examples of that if you go into the prefabs. One of the things that was cool about prefabs and why we need to bring it back is prefabs were a great teaching tool. It showed you some of the more advanced stuff that you can do with Noodle. And again, coming back to the point which have gone completely off base, but is that the Noodle team, who were a team of very talented Swedish developers, they imported their beliefs and their standards and habits and coding. They imported it into this. So you see like really hardcore, like really great examples of stuff that you can do from this. Maybe this one or this one. Okay. I like the new import menu. All right, filters. So yeah. So that's a good. That's a function one. Okay, so the functions can have multiple output signals, as you can see here. So it runs one function, but it actually will output multiple output signals. So where is it? Update filter. No. Yeah, outputs filter value changed. As long as it has that close parentheses, then yeah, that declares it as a signal. So it's something that will call something else. So when this is fired, then that's going to call this, whatever it is, or it's going to pass through that output to something else. So that I'm trying to get my head around and your head, Jordan, around what is the difference between a signal and a function. A signal and a value is that a signal doesn't pass data. A signal just triggers another function somewhere. Is really the difference. And a value is just a string, a number, whatever.
Yeah, I think I already got that.
Okay.
I think because a signal happens. It's like an event, right? Like on click, off click, and then you still have to pass the value separately. And the thing that you're passing the signal to, that determines like when it fires to update its own value from the input. So you can send something, but unless you have a listener on the other end that's constantly listening, it's not going to update, right?
Yeah, if you don't have it connected to something, then the signal will just fall silent and not do anything. Then, so anyway, I'll come back to, we'll get back to this. I think I wanted to get back to that example of the way that we could do, is it the hero thing? Info strip? I forget where I put that function. No, anyway. Oh no, it was the price. That was it. So coming back to this, where I was saying we can do the number change. We can change a string into a number using an expression, using a using a function, but the other way we can do it now is with a visual function. So with the Blockly system, where we would do math, and this is what I remembered you talking in the video about the idea of having math nodes. Talking with Claude about it, it was like, okay, we can build a whole math node thing, but then your canvas is going to become just a mess of nodes just to be able to multiply, divide, and why not just do it in the system we already have, which is the node with the Blockly system, where it actually has a very developed math system already. So if we take that input, we define, now I'm not very good at Blockly, probably better at Blockly than code, but we'll define it as current price. And it's a number because, of course, we want to be type safe, don't we? I know that you were complaining about that in the video, but TypeScript, type safe. And then we're going to define an output as discounted price, which is also a number. It's type safe because then it gives you, if you put a string in, it's going to say error, that's not a number. So that just gives you that initial warning to say what you're doing, you need to fix it. It doesn't work. So we've got our current price. We are going to do math on the current price. No, we're going to do some string stuff. We're going to find get substring. That's what we want, right? No, trim spaces, that one. And then we want to do math on that. We wanted to do, I'm really bad at math. Okay, that's going to be multiplied. And you can see there's still some bugs in here, like when I do the menu, it doesn't, like it weirdly highlights the stuff in the menu, so it's definitely stuff to fix. 0.9. That part is the bit that we want to, why is that not going there? Oh, crumbs, I know why. How do you change something to a number in here? Logic. Oh crap.
Is it a string you want?
I want to do the text thing, but I want to make that text turn into a number, and I think we don't have that. String remainder around is even. No, don't have that, do we? Crumbs.
Is it a function?
No, I think it would have to be like the math. Yeah, it could be a. Oh, yeah, no, you're right. It's a function. You're right. Is it that? God, I'm so bad at this.
I'm already hitting this now.
Shut up. Yeah. I'm not okay. So I did use this for a while and I loved it, but I never really went that far with it. It's not a good excuse. What I want is to do. Yeah, I want to do something. I want to get the text, which is the. So anyway, what you would do is get your input value. Put it here. Get input value. So input current price. Oh no, actually, I'll show you what you can do. Forget that. Click here, bing, and it just comes up. That's cool. So you have your inputs and outputs.
Wait, do that again. Do that again.
I'll show you. Yeah. So you've defined your input. Click it, and ta-da! It just appears. So then you've got that value coming in.
Okay.
Blockly is cool. And then that goes in. That can't go in there. So the only thing we're stuck on is changing that to a number. We could cheat. We can cheat. We can cheat. So we're going to do variables. We're going to do that variable. So variables in Blockly is variables that are constrained to the context of this particular editor, not runtime variables, which are the Noodle global, they're everywhere variables. So that's an important thing that we'll have to work out at one point anyway.
Well, that's what I thought when you define an input and when you define... Oh, so runtime... Okay, so I thought runtime variables for Blockly were local. They're not. They're global.
So they're not. If you do variables, they're constrained to the current canvas of Blockly, whereas we have these options, which are special Noodle options, where an app object is an object that's global to the whole Noodle project. So if you declare an object, my product, then declaring it here will actually, you can access it then at another page of the app because it's declared globally everywhere. So these are like the Noodle specific things, runtime variables, signals, inputs. This is all Noodle stuff. And then this is the just classic Blockly stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, that times 7. So that, what we need to do is we need to set price number to, and it's probably going to complain. So we don't need a function. We don't need that. Get substring from the first one to last letter. So that should slice out from, it should only take the first position, not the 0 position, I think. I hope that works. I don't know if letter numbers start at 0 or 1. We will find out. And then we will set the output result to price number times 0.9. And maybe, so if we want to test it, this is cool, and I might do this for functions too. You can put in a number here like 22, and then actually test it and see what comes out. So that gets stuck because that can't set that, because I guess that's not a number. But you see like 22 is the input, and then, yeah.
1's the output, but because those other, like the ones that couldn't run because it got blocked at price number, you can sort of look at that and say, okay, well, something happened at price number in the logic that it couldn't follow through with the rest of it.
Well, it says sequence slice is not a function at the bottom here in the output, so maybe there's a bug as well in that system. So it could be worth checking out. So yeah, because we got set input, defined input. So we defined it. Current price, we text current price, get substring from. Yeah, I think we're just missing a math function here that says convert to number. It just probably hasn't put in like all the math functions that are possible. But there's a lot, but not maybe all of them. Anyway, so you get the point of what it would do. And then that would be the alternative to this coding. We could just put the price in to the current price input and then pipe out the discounted price output to whatever it is. I'm in the wrong place, but you know what I mean. And then you can also hook it up to a run signal as well. So there is a run signal that will run that visual function. This one I think doesn't have run on change because it's a Blockly function. It could be quite complex. So you just have to run it. You have to actually connect the signal or it doesn't run. And
yeah, I think that wasn't there before this update. That was something you added, right?
This has been overhauled completely. I think the left panel, the right panel, all of this stuff, runtime variables, Deshant, if you're still there, you are still there. Libraries. So you can also do the window object in Blockly. And if you've added a library, if you've added Directus or Stripe or something like that, then you would be able to access potentially, I haven't tried it yet, the things that are available from that library. You could access them here to call them as well. I would imagine it's probably just going to give you, like, if you declared Stripe at the head of code, then here it would just be a Stripe block dot, and then you just have to type in whatever function you want to call, like Stripe dot get order dot whatever. But that's so that's an option to do things in a way that's more visual.
One question.
Yeah.
So an expression, can you reference an expression from inside Blockly?
No, you wouldn't be able to say this is an expression and I'd like pull it into here. You would, I would think, do that probably as a function. And then the way Blockly works is the way I did the expression where I said like slice and whatever, that stuff you would do with blocks. I haven't seen in Blockly that I don't think there's a way to kind of put your own custom code in there. What you can do is create your own custom blocks. So you can save this part that I've done here and say this is going to be called discount by 10%. And we're going to save it either at the project level, so it's available in all Blocklys, in all logic nodes in this project, or you save it in what's called your backpack, which is a Blockly concept where it saves it to your account. So if you're in any project, you'll have that block available to discount the number by 10%. But let's just say we'll use it here. And then in my blocks, you get that anywhere you want. So you can pull that into another function, put the input, which is the number, and then the output of it will be the 10% discount. So you can build up a library of math functions, for example, that you could use, if you're doing a more complex function where there's more stuff going on and in the middle of it you want to discount by 10%, then you use this rather than having to repeat these nodes every time, which is nice.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's modularity.
Like
you wouldn't believe. Yeah,
and then
that's exactly what I'm looking for.
And if you want to edit it, just because I realized that if you put it in here and you're like, oh, I forget even what I did to make this, then you go to the app settings. It's maybe not the most obvious thing, and we might change that interface. In the app settings down at the bottom, you have saved blocks. And so here you can actually edit the template that you've created, and it'll change it wherever it exists in the app.
Right. So if I went to my blocks and I created one and then I edited the my block, would it just edit that local instance of the block, or can you not go into the blocks like that?
So you can't go into it here, but if I go, so if imagine I have this here and I have it also in a couple of other pages. So there's like several places where I discount by 10%. If I decide to change the discount price, then I would go into the app global settings, get that global thing, rename it to discount by 15%, and then edit blocks, and it'll tell you it's used somewhere, so be careful. So that reinforces the fact that it's actually going to work across. So then I would put 0.85 and save, and then that'll change it everywhere that it exists. So anywhere that you've put it in, like here, then that will now discount by 15%, even though the name hasn't changed. That's probably just a bug. But it changes the logic everywhere that you've placed that block. Not the original though. So that part, you would maybe even want to replace that because it's the original blocks. You might want to just actually delete all that and replace it with this. That's it, cleaner. And also you don't have one origin point that doesn't update then when you update to 15%.
Yeah.
So
because that's interesting, because the convention, when I first started using this, you right click and you extract to component, right? And then it puts everything in sort of like a sub node.
Yeah.
And so then you just kind of go inside that sub node and you can edit around with it. And you know that that's not a global thing because it kind of only exists as like a convenient way to group it. But then if you wanted to save it as like a prefab, then it would appear in your prefabs menu.
That's literally this. I'm already trying to work that out because it's complicated, because you should be able to do that. So you should be able to say, and I've changed that, by the way, so you'll see that I've, based on your video, if we do extract to component, it asks you what you want to call it, which was really stupid before. I just created extracted components. So this would be product photo. And then we would put it somewhere. So you can put it at the root, you can put it in the app as a sub component of the app or whatever, extract it. And then it does open it as it did before, but it opens it and you can see their components. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's something that drove me nuts before. So their product photo. So it's created that component, put it at the components box, and that's then available throughout your whole app. Now, if you like this, and you want it to go somewhere else in a different project, at the moment, which is really annoying, you would go import from project. This one is the one I just created it in, import, and I have to search then for product, and this is made Shant very happy. We can do a text search, which we couldn't do before. We had to scroll and find it. So we can
scroll and yeah. I'm very happy for this search bar.
It was for complex projects. It's just not possible. So we import that, and then that worked out great. And we have components, product photos. So the same component imported from the other project. That's what we have to do at the moment. Now, putting in it as a prefab is a great idea, and I would love that. However,
wait. Is a prefab like a component, like a project agnostic component, extracted component, or is it okay? Yeah,
like what we just did with Blockly, it creates a fork of what you've done in that project and puts it at a level where it's not independent of your project, and it's at the level of nobody can edit this anymore. It's just you clone it the way it is and you change it. But if I change the original in my project, same as Blockly, it's not going to change what I put into prefab, because what I put in prefab is a snapshot and it doesn't link. Now, the question was, and what I'm trying to work out with Claude is, could it, and is that a good idea? So if I put, at the moment we don't have a way to put something into prefabs, which I would like to do, but if I do put it into prefab, say I've got this photo thing, it's great, I make a prefab out of it, but then down the line I decide that my font is no longer whatever this is, it's now Inter by Google, then if I change it at the project level on this project, but I'm using that same photo in 3 other projects because I'm building these like e-commerce sites for clients, does it change it in the 3 other projects? I mean, the answer should be no, it shouldn't. You should have the option to, but that's Git. So that's, I have my original, I've created a prefab that becomes the main branch, and I have my Kiln and Co branch. And if I change it in the Kiln and Co branch, the prefab doesn't change, but the prefab sees that one of the branches has changed. So the prefab can say, do you want to pull and merge? But be careful, if you do, then the prefab will change forever. And then the 3 other projects, you would go into them and click the prefab and it would say, hey, I'm on the VFN64 branch of this prefab. The main one is 1 commit ahead of me. Should we merge with that? And you can say, no, I don't want the font to change in this project. Or you can say yes, and you can change it in every project. So it's that Git tree management concept that would allow you to manage the versions that exist. And there could be different versions in every project, and maybe one main version that's like a template, and you tweak it in every project. And you don't push it up to the what we call the launcher. This is the launcher. You don't push it up to the launcher level. You would have like a prefab tab up here, and it would contain community prefabs, which we already have, and then your own prefabs. And this is, so it's part of a bigger dream that I have, which is written, if you want to check it out, in.
Yeah, it's because it's interesting. Projects as distinct from prefabs. You could, in theory, like make a project for every prefab that you create, but that would get cumbersome, and it doesn't tell the user
Exactly
what that thing is there for.
Exactly.
So
and if you ever go into that project and accidentally mess around with it, then suddenly you can't import that component anymore because you've messed it up or something. Like, yeah, it gives you a point of weakness, I think. But also consider that, and I don't know, Deshant, if you've tried this yet or not, or I think probably Jordan, you haven't yet had time. The AI building system developed what it calls component bench, which is where if you have one component that you really like the image thing, like the product photo, then you can go and look at that in isolation, which doesn't work, I guess, because maybe sample data. No. Yeah, okay, that's busted. The idea is that you can look at it. Sorry? You don't?
So you've got like the product photo. Oh, maybe they're the tabs that... No, I have the ones down the bottom. I have the back and forward buttons for the demo and the pages that open at the bottom. But you're looking at all of these different assets.
Yeah, so you go to
tabs that are there.
You go to components. Hang on, let's get back. Go to components. Let's exit this. Sign. Oh no, how do I do? How do I get out? I don't know how to use my own editor.
Close it and open it again.
There's a way to get out of it though. Data. Sample data preview only. Close. No. What have I done? App preview. There we go. So you go app preview. I guess that gets you back. So what you should see is if you're in a component, whether it's preview or design mode, you should have this little tab at the top, and that you should see like all the components you have.
Gotcha. Okay. No. So the preview, yeah, I've undocked it, so I didn't realize that was there that lived. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's the app preview, and then you can have one that is for prefabs, yeah?
So this is the concept, I think, that you could port into prefabs. You could have at the top level launcher, you could have this individual component view where you don't have to have a whole app and then import the bits that you like. You can make just one component and save it as a component and not have to necessarily have it in an app. So a footer, I could have a footer with, this, for example, this footer is probably not done right. I'll get a better example, but imagine this footer had an input for brand name, an input for first column title, second column title, third column title, and then like a JSON that you could program that would show you like each one of the options. Then this becomes a footer that you've done responsively. It works great. If you put it in small mode or whatever, then it responsively changes. That's awesome. Then that can just be imported into any project. And at the top level, where we look at it in the component bench on the launcher as a prefab, you would see one like this, but with dummy data, with dummy inputs. Let's if I could maybe I can do an example just because I think the AI has done some.
And going into these prefabs,
Yeah.
that's where you can say, hey, like I want it to, because you were talking about ways to change the font or whether or not like the font is, comes out of the original prefab. But you go inside the prefab to say, hey, like I already have like a cascading style sheet that I want it to reference. So I just go into that and say, hey, I like reference this CSS.
That's a really good question. So yeah, if you had, because at the moment how Noodle works or NodeGX works is if you have your footer, what you would have is like this main group has a background color, which is, must be brown. There's a brown somewhere. Footer columns, no, it's not that. Anyway, normally you would see here a background color. Maybe it's that one, I don't know. Anyway, you would have a component input and you would say as a port, it's called background color. And then you would connect that background color to the background color. And then that's what defines the background color. Here you can see that it's given me the options and I can test them out, which is cool. So that's what I wanted to show. That actually works. That's cool. Whew. So the idea of the component bench is if you define inputs, then you can play here and show. So the answer to your question would be, So imagine I make a new project and the project has red instead of brown. You would want to define red at the top level of the project and say, this is the style sheet. Main color is red, secondary color is blue. And then you would want that background color gets automatically assigned to like primary color, for example. So if you make a new app, you import this prefab, you don't have to go and like manually say what background color is. You would just say anywhere where there is primary, you make it red. So I think that's what we need to get to is like defining the colors and things as words or like style sheet values. And then every project understands what primary is and hooks up. So everything that was brown in the other project becomes red because they're all labeled as primary as a CSS style. I think is the idea.
Providing they're all referencing the same CSS source, right?
Yeah. But I'm not the guy. Deshant is the guy for this. So if Deshant, we can get some time and some Claude Code bucks, then we need to talk about this whole front end style thing because style is not my forte. I'm more back end and logic. But yeah, we need to work this out. And outputs as well.
One more thing, Richard.
Yes.
A view that you are showing is currently small, medium, and large, right?
Yeah.
But and the viewport is currently the above and below split. But if we switch to the left and right split, can you do that? From above. Below side.
Good question. I don't know.
This one.
Yes, you can. It just looks a bit silly, but you can.
So my question is, rather than giving them a viewport within the viewport would be silly. So why not just give them? I mean, switch it to this one, a pop-up kind of like a preview, and let the user resize the component and see how it's gonna look like, and not give them the rigid kind of like window that you need to click on the small, medium, and some such thing.
I like your idea,
So
man.
they can see and In simpler words, let's say the app preview, the root of the component of this project.
Mm-hmm.
Click on this one.
Yeah.
The app, yes, this one. And here you have the main page router, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by standard and by the standard of Noodle, you say the main one has to be wrapped up in a group node.
That's
So
fixed.
the group node
That's
kind
fixed.
of like
I fixed that. So every new
okay.
project has a group and a page router. That's fixed. Sorry to interrupt you, because I saw
Okay.
your
So
message.
I was saying, yep. So I was saying, the when you open this one as a pop-up viewer, and it's going to be red render as the like it's same uh, separate and individual app router thing. So you know how it's going to be working. I mean, how it's going to be aligning and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even if even if you remove the parent CSS properties, it's going to inherit if we put it in a like a footer. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
inherit all of the widths and maximum height widths from its parent component, right?
Okay.
But if you open it in a like the pop-up view, so
Yeah.
that we can see, yeah, that's exactly the prefab it has to be look like, the
Okay.
raw kind of view.
Yeah. So be able to. Yeah. Okay. I think I see what you mean. Be able to check that at the app level, it's definitely going to be responsive no matter
Yes.
no matter what happens. I think that's a good point. Yes. At the moment, this sucks. So I will be like, I can't increase the height, which is really dumb. So that's silly. The data thing doesn't work, which I think it was supposed to. Yeah, you're supposed to be able to hook it up to the real backend, but I think that doesn't work at the moment. What I can see at least is that the footer, if we go to the footer, it does accept inputs, and I know that it does do outputs as well. So if I say hovered, and this, when this gets hovered, yes, no, sorry, my bad, switch. So if I hover this, then it turns it on.
Yep.
And if I stop hovering it, it turns it off, and then that will output a true or false to hovered. Then in theory, you should be able to see that. Yeah. So you see it change on the right menu. So that gives you this way of, that's the idea of the workbench that I'm trying to, we're at the really beginning of this, but the idea is that you could, with the app component or with it, whatever prefab, that you could play with it independent of what's happening in the app. The same as what you saw in Blockly, where I can just say what color it is and then do the hovering or click the button and just see what the inputs and outputs are going to be visually all at once, which I mean, you can do here as well by just pinning things. But there's something nice about being able to define the values really easily here and just do like dummy data without messing with the node canvas itself. And you can also save scenarios. So if I have primary hover and some other values, I can save that as hover test or something. And it'll save whatever values you've put in, and then you can come back to that test whenever you want, and it'll load up all the values again. So you could test like buttons disabled or user not authenticated or something like that, and it would you could just select the scenario rather than having to put the data in every time. So a cool concept. I don't know what
yeah, that is really cool.
Turn into, but so that and so anyway, that comes to the prefab. Yes, definitely having prefabs where it's community and your own prefabs, and that you have access to them outside, where you'll have a prefab tab, and then you can open the prefab the way you saw it there in the bench, mess with it, do some changes, decide if you want to pull those changes into your projects or not. That's a phase that I'm looking into at the moment that I think would be really cool. So yeah, I think that's mostly it. I know we've been on for an hour and a half, so we do have to cut it, but we can do this more regularly.
Sorry.
No, it's
I
cool.
do.
Yeah, go for it.
I do have one question,
Please.
if it can be answered quickly, because there was a whole section where I had to take a phone call. When I sign into this after your update, it gives a little thing where it says, would you like, Claude to edit this, and you can just watch. And I wanted to know if that was through the MCP server functionality or if it was through an API key that plugs into the program itself.
That's a very good question. It's a bit of both. So
okay.
So what it has, what the editor has is an MCP for reading and writing to nodes. in the Node canvas that essentially is an MCP that can read your project JSON files. So all the little JSON files that explain how the nodes are positioned and whatever, and what the connections are. There's one MCP that can read and write that. Then there's another MCP that can see if I do true, false, true, false. There's an MCP that's feeding that information out of the editor. So if Claude or whatever was connected to it, it would see that data and be able to say, oh, I see the switch is turning on and off. That's a problem because... so then to answer your question, this inbuilt editor is an API call that uses the MCP server to do what it does. So when it reads things, writes things, whatever, it's using the same MCP server. So whether you use Claude code that dials into the MCP and tells it what to create and what to delete, or you use this, which uses any API, it could be, DeepSeek, and DeepSeek goes to the MCP and tells it, you need to create this, you need to delete this. It's the same underlying system that allows it to do the work that it does. The big difference is if I do it here, it costs me, I don't know where it doesn't put the cost anymore. It used to put the cost up. If I do it here, it costs me money. If I do it with Anthropic, it costs me a lot of money. If I do it with DeepSeek, it costs me virtually nothing. But it costs money every time you do something. In Claude Code, you're hooked up to your subscription. So all it costs you is your weekly usage or your session usage. So if I tell it, please make me a component in Claude Code, and it does the work in the editor, you'll see the same thing. You'll see the editor changing and the components being added. But it won't make me pay for the API. It'll just use my Claude subscription that I find is actually really, really cheap. And you can get a lot of stuff done with
Okay,
Claude.
because that's really interesting, because the way that it's really funny. I started integrating Claude Code on Monday, and it keeps writing to the Claude MD on my computer. And I don't know if it's carrying through its old assumptions, but essentially I still have to navigate out of the project editor, reopen the project before I see any of the node changes update. So if I can reference something to tell Claude Code, it's like, hey, you actually don't have to do that. There is a way for me to get you to connect to the MCP server, and you can edit the nodes in real time while I watch you do it. Go look for that functionality, and it'll say, you're right, I missed that. You're absolutely right.
You are right. Let's test
so
that.
If you have
Sorry, you carry on talking. I'm just gonna while you're talking, I'm gonna start testing it.
Yeah, but no, that's usually me working from the Claude Code client on my desktop. So yeah, my presumption is that it can build all of those nodes, but you have to reload the canvas because it's writing to a file on the disk, and then that doesn't get updated in my NodeGX client until I reload that file. So that's how it's working at the moment. If it can work differently with the Claude Code desktop app and not an API, that'd be phenomenal.
Let's try it.
Jordan.
Yeah. Sorry, Dishant.
So you are saying, yep. So you are saying, Jordan, that if you go to the Claude Code in the VS Code, VS Studio, I mean, so and if you ask something to create a function and
in VS Studio? No, I'm not using VS Studio. I'm using the Claude
and
desktop
if
app.
you have already opened the NodeGX on your window, and
sorry, Dishant, I think you cut out.
yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
So I was asking if you ask it to change something in the app, and you give it the copy as path and paste the path of that JSON file. So it's going to be changing those files directly from the local files, right? But you won't be able to see it on your Noodle if you have already opened on that project. Is that correct, or am I over here?
Yeah, so I don't have to copy and paste the JavaScript. It'll edit the files directly in the working folder, and I have to exit the project in Noodle and then reopen the project to be able to see the updated changes. And so
we're gonna test that, and I think we're gonna.
It should be able to.
Yeah, I think the thing about Claude Desktop
Are you running Claude from VS Code?
Yeah, it's tomato. It's the same. It's just the VS Code makes it way easier to browse the files if you want to look at like Markdown and read them. I find that VS Code is easier, but it's really the same. It's the exact same system underlying it. So I just want to test it and see what we get out of that. So essentially, yeah, what I've got here is the MCP commands that you can use, but you shouldn't have to. I think this is the new feature where if I go connect Claude Code, it runs the MCP commands for me, and it exposes all projects. Already exists. Oh, perfect. So it already is on there. That's good. And then if we go into this one, what I have to do, the first thing I have to do is point Claude Code or VS Code towards the folder of the project. So this is the folder where I have this Kiln and Co template. Then I don't need to worry about the actual files. I go straight into Claude and I say, let's say we'll create a new section, let's say under Meet the Maker. Just make sure I'm not on Fable. Can we make a new section in the project under Meet the Maker that shows one headline product that's got a big deal on this month and a nice description of the product. Just use a dummy product. So let's see what it does.
And can you put the Claude, the VS Code on the left and like the node graph on the right?
Yeah. Sort of. So let's see, it should be creating something in, so we're on home. No, we should see it appear here then, between this month's firing and Meet the Maker. What is it saying? So find the Meet the Maker section. Oh, it's got puppy test. That's not the one. That was one I did. It's one different project. All right, so it's all work with the files directly. Let me find Meet the, no. All right, so that's a problem. So it's not, it's doing a different project that the MCP is bound to. So how do we, well, okay, let's, hang on. Oh no, there, read feature project. Okay, no, it's switched. So it's switched projects. There we go. It's got the right project. It's working on it. And yeah, it's slow because what it's doing is it has to look up, like, I can't remember how many, it got improved, but there was a point where it was looking up a lot of, it was using a lot of tokens to look up how to actually do it. There was like 20,000 tokens before, and I think it got reduced down to 8,000 of instructions of like, how do you deal with the JSON? How do you find the components you want? How do you make a new component? What are the best practices for making components? So it is clunky in a way that it has to learn from start every time. Every time you have a conversation, it has to say, let me first figure out how to make a NodeGX thing. So it's kind of like, you know, in Claude where you have skills, it doesn't, if you put in like a brand skill that explains everything you need about creating products or like documents with your brand, it doesn't like ingest that into Claude's brain. Every conversation it has to open and read that file and then say, okay, now I know how to use your brand. So it's the same thing with NodeGX. It has to open it every time. Whereas if you ask it to make JavaScript, it'll say, no problem, I don't need to read anything. I know JavaScript like the back of my hand. So there's a big difference there in terms of knowledge. Oh, look, that's good. I like that I can collapse the menu. That's a cool feature. Checking background colors. So I've got this. Yeah, still not there. So you're right, so far, still not there. But has it written anything? No, it's just reading at the moment.
Yeah. And like every time it figures something out, you know, it writes to claude.md and it writes to the project's own memory. And sometimes like they're two different things. Like it encountered general, like I have to tell it to write to claude.md, or at least it says, oh yeah, we should probably write that down for next time. Give me permission to do that. And I'll say, yeah, you know, write to the Claude like system-wide knowledge.
No,
and then it'll also put like
that might be a Claude specific, Claude Code app specific thing, because I don't have a Claude.md in the project folders. the MC.
No. I know that is a Claude specific thing.
Yeah.
So like it's storing information about building to NodeGX in the Claude wide system thing, because it's
Okay.
like, okay, well, I don't want to continue like exactly the same, like reading things at the project level every single time we do
Yeah.
this.
It's maybe, is it like, yeah, it's kind of like a skill then, but like a global skill. Because normally Claude.md, for me,
Yeah.
Claude.md is project specific. So I'll have a Claude.md project, which may be actually a good idea to store a Claude.md in each NodeGX project that gives specific information to Claude about that project when starting, to say this user has chosen a very, you know, subtle style or whatever. You need to create buttons with a good bit of spacing because whatever, that it maybe should learn as it goes, which I think it doesn't do at the moment because I don't have a Claude MD here. So that's something to think about. But that's why the confusion is, I think, for me, Claude.md is project scoped and not global. You probably can have a global one, but it would be, yeah, like you said, just being able to say you do have access to NodeGX and this is what you have to do. And then within each individual project, you're not going to save the Kiln and Co instructions to your global Claude.md. It would be constrained to a local Claude.md. So you could have both. You could have like a global level one and then a project level one. And those are two different instruction sets that it reads every time it starts. So that maybe is how to fix that problem, I think. We're still fetching stuff.
Yeah, what's it fetching?
The images. So it's able to fetch and look at images. So it's going to make me an example image of a product, whatever featured product it wants to put here. But we're still waiting to see it. But the concept is that if it modifies the JSON, it is supposed to appear here. If it doesn't, that's a bug and I'll fix it. But you are supposed to see live changes happening, just that Claude Code is slow. So it takes a really long time for that to happen. If you do it with the builder, it'll happen faster.
No, I understand.
Yeah. I think the builder yesterday.
Maybe I think you should do a refresh.
Huh? Oh, no, it's not done anything yet. It's still reading. It's doing bash commands. It's reading. So at the moment, it hasn't done any write steps.
Okay.
And if you were doing this correctly, you would have it in plan mode. So you would have it first in plan mode. It would just read. It would just research, and then it would present a plan and say, this is what I propose to create. The difference, one of the differences is if it says, this is what I'm telling you I'm going to create, it's not going to show you what it looks like in the editor. Whereas the build mode, it actually shows you at the end. It says, here's what I've built. Do you like it or do you want to change it? And so it opens the component workbench and shows you, here's the section I would say that I would add. Do you want to change it? And you keep talking to it, and then you can put it in at the point where you maybe want to make some, you want to change the image yourself. Then you add it to the project and you define the image manually. It's one of the things that I wanted to have as why NodeGX exists is it's great to have Claude Code do everything for you, but at a certain point, it's a waste of tokens to ask it to change the image URL for you when you could just do it yourself. So it's the idea of going in to design mode, then clicking the image, and you go and change the image URL yourself, rather than asking Claude to do everything. So you learn a little bit about this interface, and you get a lot of autonomy out of it that you don't need to keep paying Claude to do every little thing for you. That's one of the ideas.
In fact, over time, your token cost will reduce because you'll just build all of these modules that you end up reusing and these prefabs, and over time, like you sort of learn how to use the program yourself, and you only spend money when you need effectively a tutor.
Yeah, that's part of, I think, phase 55. Part of it was giving it ideas of stuff that it can create, showing it examples, and letting it kind of have like a prefab library for itself to be able to choose what a hero section looks like, what a footer looks like, rather than having to write it entirely in Noodle code. Like I think you're just suggesting, pull that footer, look at the code, and then just change a few things is going to take a lot less tokens than. And so if you build up your own prefab library that the Claude Code or whatever has access to, then it can pull and use examples rather than writing everything from scratch. So yeah, you're right. The more you use it, the more it gets to know you. The more maybe we do have this like global Claude MD. There could be a Claude MD that's scoped to the editor and say, when you use the editor, here's the custom instructions that we've been learning and building as this user has been using. And then in this project, there's also custom learning and instructions about this specific project. And so it could say, if you want to build a footer, go look in the prefab library because there's a really good footer in there. And that could be part of the Claude MD to save it having to think and reason and use tokens unnecessarily. So yeah, I think that's definitely on the cards. But I need to use it more myself. I haven't really used this. This is the first time I've asked Claude Code to do something live in the editor. So I need to use it more myself first. So it's made a structure. Structure is sound. The doctrine says verify by looking.
Yeah, should have asked for something a little bit lower scope, like a button that like increments every time you press it.
Maybe, but I mean, this is
done.
not like huge scope. This should be pretty. Like it's just should make a section with an image and a description and a title. Like that should be pretty standard. I wonder, can we see? Yeah, it started to make nodes. These are like the top level nodes. And on color, okay, it's looking at tokens. It's got a bunch of reference documents with all the tokens in there. Still stuff to optimize. I think it's still reading too much stuff. That with the early test showed that it was just taking way too many tokens in to do what it needed to do. Probably by just being conservative and thinking I'd rather know everything rather than just writing something and making a mistake. But it meant that things like DeepSeek and Kimi had real problems working with it, and I haven't done a successful DeepSeek or Kimi test yet because they have a real problem with trying to learn this whole system and work within this system. Oh, so it's built something.
There's still nothing.
Yeah, still nothing. You're right.
Where is it?
Where is it, man? Where is it?
Do a refresh, Richard.
I will, but I wanted to do the full test to make sure it's really not working. And so it is really not working. All right. So refresh. No, still not there.
Yeah, normally it works when I quit back to the project browser or the project picker and reload the project, and then it'll
But that's
appear.
exactly what it's not supposed to do. So that's a bug, and that makes me sad. Ah, you're right. Okay, there it is. Well, it's friggin' cool. Whoa. Sorry, I'm not a designer.
Yeah, it looks really good.
It looks really good.
It looks really, really good.
I would be happy with that if you made that for me. And it wasn't a huge conversation. I don't know if we can see token usage. How do you get token usage in Claude Code?
There was an extension.
Oh, okay. It doesn't show you from there. So I've cached 133,000 tokens. Yeah, so you can see like 20,000 for system tools, system prompts. So it's not huge compared to what it was before, which was bigger than this. And then the messages it's used 107,000. So what's that in like? It's 1/10 of a million. What would that be? Messages. It's a lot of it's cached as well, I guess. So it's not probably as expensive as that. 1 million tokens for Claude output is $10. So it maybe costs $1 if we can conservatively estimate that, which is a lot for that tiny little thing there. I would argue $1 means if you want to build a whole page, you're probably talking like $10. That's too much.
No, that's maybe because it took time to know it better.
But I think that's an argument for use Claude Code, because what would have cost me $10 in an API has only cost me the price of my monthly $20 a month subscription, and I haven't used it all. So you don't get charged $10 of your subscription to make the page. You get charged, whatever your session limit and your weekly limit is to make that page. So then you're only paying $20 a month, and you still will probably be able to make tons of apps through Claude Code. So if you can deal with the slowness, I think Claude Code or another MCP type coding thing like Kimi Code would probably be good too. Is probably the right way to go, and not to actually use the builder panel.
Yeah, no, I don't mind the slowness at all. I just needed to change my settings in Claude once to say, well, I don't want to keep like pressing a button to give you permissions, because if I alt tab away and do something else, like you're gonna just stop and not notify me when I need to give you permission.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, that's awesome. I'll let you go.
Well, hold on, because I want to just make sure that has it followed my. So it's made a column of stuff. Has it made any reusable components? Because the idea is that it should prioritize making reusable components. It hasn't done that. It has an out signal. That's cool. It has in signals. So we could open this in the workbench and it should show us a pretty good example of the workbench where we have, so that if you could actually see it properly, that would be a nice way to, if you made this into a prefab, then you can say some awesome product and compare at price, $100. Yeah. So you've got a whole bunch of stuff then you can actually custom define, save as a scenario. So save as, really nice chair or whatever, and then reload that each time to see, maybe some of them that do have the discount, some of them that don't, different images. So that's a really good candidate for the workbench, and a good example of how to build good components is having as many inputs as possible so the user can decide and not just have that text fixed, but have the user decide what it shows. But yeah, it's great. It's good, but it's not really perfect.
I just had an interesting thought because I mean, the way that these ecosystems used to run is that like you'd build a little module that was useful and then other people could, maybe buy it or something, put it in their app, and it only cost them a few cents, something like that. But like thousands of people use it, so you get like lots of money, economies of scale. And then like having Claude Code make them kind of useless. So like, having Claude Code like build these little components, there's not really much point in buying and selling them on the market anymore. But then it just occurred to me, it's like, okay, well, every time somebody uses a component that your instance of Claude built, then why not like give you a bunch of API tokens? Like people trade in tokens as a currency.
It's an interesting kind of almost blockchain cryptocurrency type idea, but yeah, it's definitely something to think about. I think for
it's a dumb idea.
No, it's kind of cool. That would be nice if we could do that. I don't
think you'd want to do that. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, imagine having somebody who has a sort of crypto mining Bitcoin farm thing with tons of GPUs could potentially host a DeepSeek model or a Kimi model and give access to that, and then you could have a kind of ecosystem of how do you pay for that to help this guy keep running his thing. That you kind of trade tokens or something like that. So definitely a conversation for another day with a beer, and
the next season of Ghost in the Shell should do something like that. But anyway, no, cool, that's awesome. I learned a lot today. So
good. Thanks, well, I think this should just be a kind of weekly thing. We should just do every Friday morning, have a bit of a group session where people can come and just do some examples, just look at what's possible. And I think watching your video, I was there like screaming internally, just like I wish I was there with you to tell you just have to click here. But it's also a good lesson for anyone who builds apps is watching a user use your app without you being there is the best possible feedback you can ever get, because it'll make you go crazy. But
that's why I did it.
Yeah, if the person can't figure it out, it's your problem. So that you were looking at these things and thinking, why can't I, whatever it was, that you had a string and you were trying to connect it to something and you were like, why can't I, why does that not? Then, that prompted me to think, well, we should have like a description of each output that shows you it's a number, that shows you it's a signal, that explains what a signal is. And then if you try to connect it to something, this is a whole new system where it shows you what you can connect it to, explains what you can connect it to, and then shows you what you can't connect it to, and then explains why in each time. So it's like overkill, but I think for that first user, getting in there and figuring out that's why I can't connect. Oh, okay. That there's an explanation there, and you can turn it off maybe in settings or something.
Yeah, no, that's good. And the Blockly thing, like the way that the shapes tell you where things fit into where, I mean, that's very intuitive. It doesn't tell you why necessarily. It just tells you visually, this can fit here or it can fit there, but it won't fit there.
Exactly.
And then certain port types like that audio nodes program that I used, like it uses the colors to say, well, you cannot connect like a green port to a red port or to an orange port to a blue port, or something like that,
and
just different data types.
I know Langflow had that for the visual builder for like agents. Langflow, it did have that where you wouldn't just see visual function, you would see visual function with a bunch of connectors on the side, and it would show like the main connectors, and then you could turn on some of the lesser use connectors, which is what you were doing, I think, in the audio example in the settings, is a way to do it. For Noodle, I think seeing what people have developed in the past in terms of the complexity of the node graph, I think it would end up being too cluttered, but something to think about. And a lot of these things can be, if some people like it and some people don't, whereas in old Noodle, you had to kind of have it one way because it just took so long to develop things. Because it's so quick to develop things now, I can just say, okay, you can turn square wiring on or off. You can turn show all connectors on or off. And then you decide if you like that or not. And you, per project, you decide if you want to have that turned on or not. And then it's not, I'll not judge you if you want to have those colored connectors or whatever, then that's your thing. So we can build options and people can have it their way and switch things on or off, I think. There's the thing where you have wire labels on all the time, for example, as well. I don't know if that ever interested somebody or not, but or there's also you can put
called?
You could also drag labels to Shant. Don't know if you saw that. Look, do we do it?
Where?
Ta-da!
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh, gosh, dang it!
Can you drag labels now? Hold
Text
on.
bloody technology, man.
Page. Now there's no.
Yeah. So do a connector. Get a hand over the label. Drag the label. Nice. And then
okay.
You can also right click and do add label. Adds a custom label.
Oh.
Ta-da! And then if you, like I was explaining in the settings but wasn't showing you, you could actually turn wires labels permanently on or off. Custom labels are permanently on by default, but if it's just a default label, you can turn them on or off and it'll show all labels across the whole canvas on any connector. You have wire direction as well. This is something I think that you mentioned, Jordan. If you make it long enough, it'll show you a little chevron that shows the direction that the wire's going. So if you're lost kind of in the middle of it, you'll be able to see, oh, it's going this way. So that was nice. And,
okay, that's nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Little touches like that.
It'd be cool if, like, where you have the label and you have the little label thing. Like if you mouse over the connector, like you've got that signal not triggered status thing, and once you pin it, you can't move it.
No.
Whatever you do with the actual label of it, like if you label the node, like having that number just somewhere that's easy and not too obtrusive, that would also be amazing.
Yeah, I think that the hack for that at the moment is wherever you highlight is where the thing appears. But it's true, once you pin it, then you can't move it to somewhere else. You have to unpin it, go somewhere else, repin it. So there is a way, but definitely we can add that to the list of things that maybe dragging that or kind of customizing that a bit, maybe with some comments or something like that could be cool as well.
Well, because notice how, like, when you highlight it, it shows custom label, and that one is beautiful. Like, it comes in when I expect it to. It's right there under the cursor. The signal not triggered doesn't disappear until, like, I click away from it, which is strange.
That's true.
It doesn't behave the way I expected.
That's true. Yeah. It's more of a you have to it might be better that you have to stay on where you're actually. Yeah, that's an idea. Let's make it, I mean, this is where as well, please use the question mark, which I don't think I made obvious enough. Question mark, report a bug or suggest a feature. And then that'll take you into your GitHub. You have to have a GitHub account, but it should make a template suggestion where it labels it for you, and all you have to do is just type what you want, the title and what you want to have, and it'll send that information into the repo. So that's an important point that I probably should have mentioned at the beginning, that the best way to put the feedback is through here, because then my Claude Code can go and look at it and say, I see the most recent issues, let me deal with them. And Claude Code can actually close issues, put comments. Like, I don't have to do it with my limited knowledge of how these things work. I can get Claude to help me to do things like this. So if you do, I think if you do report a bug, it actually sends a screenshot, if I remember right, of the bug. Is it? Or am I going crazy? No, I'm going crazy. I think it was supposed to show a screenshot. Boxmate can't work around it. Dang, no, it doesn't. There was something, I'll work on that, but yeah, it was supposed to be like take a screenshot of the node canvas, so then when you report the issue, I can see what you were looking at when you reported. So we'll work on that, but that stuff down there is important, so keep that in mind as well. For future feedback, any suggestions, I mean, whatever suggestion, just stick it in there. It's up to us if we decide to make it an option, or it's not, it's for later, or it's really important, then it's for the community to decide, hopefully, when we get Deshant in there, more people helping us to build as a community. That's what I want to get to. I don't want to just be doing this all by myself. And I mean, it's open source. Anybody right now, I'm one of the admins of the repo, but there's like 4 other admins, so people who were involved in the past, and anybody can go in, clone the repo, do changes in Claude Code, make a pull request, and then we can evaluate the code and say, oh, that's cool, you added a label dragger feature, we'll merge that, and then that becomes part of the main repo. So the whole point of open source is anybody's allowed to suggest or even to code something, and then it's up to the kind of committee of people who run the NodeGX repo to decide if those things go in or not. But everything is written there, so everything is open and transparent and fair in theory. So worth keeping in mind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Confusion on my side. When you were editing that hero section from the Claude Code in the VS Studio, was the MCP server of this instance was up or down?
The problem was, it seems like I had an MCP server existing from a previous test that was on a different project. And Claude said, oh, it's on the wrong project, hold on. And it was using the MCP for the other project to call this current project. So it did find it, but you can see that it says the MCP server is bound to a different project, not this directory. So its authoring and validation tools would have been written to the wrong place. I edited the files directly and updated registry JSON by hand, then verified counts against this. So it did the work that it needed to do, but yeah, I had a problem with that, so I need to fix that the MCP was actually stuck on a different project and it couldn't switch to my project easily. But yeah, it was running, and you can try this feature here, Connect Claude Code. That should just run the MCP server directly in your terminal, and then Claude Code should have access to it straight away when you do that, in theory.
Okay. I was thinking if Claude Code editing the files, I mean the JSON file of every component hand by hand by locally rather than going through the MCP server, would that be better, or just using the MCP server is better? What's the difference?
It's a good question. And remember that an MCP server it's running locally, so it's actually in your computer, and all it is a framework that it uses to write to a node. So when it writes the JSON, it knows from the instructions what the JSON should look like. It uses the MCP to write to the project JSON. So it's kind of the same thing, maybe not precisely, but it just looking for the JSON files manually and writing to them is just using the Claude Code read file, write file. But our MCP gives it the same kind of functions, but specifically about node things, so it knows what it has to update this file and this file and this file at the same time, because they're all connected to the same component. So it's really that the MCP constrains it to doing its job correctly, rather than letting it write manually, and maybe it only updates one of the 3 JSON files that it needs to update, and the component breaks. So I think the MCP is just a guardrail to make sure that it does its job correctly. And
maybe
yeah.
Or maybe if the Claude was doing things raw and rather than doing things the MCP way, it would be much faster than the MCP. Maybe
it could be faster, but I mean, look at what it's doing here. It does list nodes, it does get warnings, it does get style vocabulary. So it's been told you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. It's got a lot of instructions, and it's not going to miss a step because of the MCP. Whereas if it does it manually, it would have to read the instructions as like a claude.md file, and then we hope that it's going to follow all the instructions and not miss a step. So it's more taking the risk of having to front load a lot of this is what you should do instructions, and then hope that it follows those instructions, rather than the MCP, which is if you don't need the style because it's a logic node, it doesn't go and get the get style vocabulary tool. It'll leave that alone. So it reduces the overall token usage. So it might be longer, but in theory, it should be more efficient because it's only accessing the tools that it needs and the instructions with those tools that it needs to do the job that it's doing rather than having one giant instruction document. Or you could have multiple instruction documents, but then that's basically the same as an MCP. So I think you could, I mean, you can definitely test it, by the way. You can just point Claude Code to the folder and say, can you, without an MCP, work out how to change this? And it'll study it and figure it out and read the rules, and it can do it manually. So I would say try it, compare having used the MCP and then disconnecting it and doing it manually, and just see what the difference is between the two.
Absolutely, and I think we would need a kind of like a difference between the MCP and the without the MCP. So to let the new users know why you should use the MCP rather than giving them the Claude Code a freehand and do whatever he thinks he would be better.
Yeah. I think we need tutorial videos. I need to redo the whole training section. The training section's been hidden because it's completely out of date. So I'm working on that to onboard new people. But yeah, definitely that's something. And I would love to try it with Kimi Code and stuff like that, because there's a lot of people who are not going to be able to necessarily afford a $20 a month Claude subscription, who want to use this, kids in school or whatever, different countries. So if someone's using Kimi Code instead, or you're building in China and Kimi Code is maybe your only option, then you would maybe want to, I don't know how it works, but I would like to try it with other tools as well and make sure that we're being as flexible as possible. Cool. Yeah, I gotta run. Thank you, boys, and I will.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
You're so good at explaining stuff.
Thanks. I'll upload the video to YouTube, and I'll try to do some more tutorial videos if I have time at the weekend or beginning of next week, and I'll keep working on the roadmap. But please submit any suggestions or issues. Just fire them into the GitHub, and I'll get on them.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.